went to the one person that I knew would make a bet on me, or at least I thought, which was my 80-year-old grandma. And I told her about my dream for the internet and how it's going to be so big and this internet advertising was going to just blow up. And she gave me a $10,000 loan, even though she had no idea what the internet was. And I took the loan, and that's when I started my first company.
Kim, I'm super excited to have this conversation. I'm very excited for your third book to come out. But before we get there, if you want to just kind of start at the beginning, because I think one of the fascinating parts of successful entrepreneurs is that everyone sees a finished product, especially on the internet. In your introductions, read like these highlight reels. So if you just want to take us back to whatever part of the story you find is the beginning, let's jump right in there.
Oh my gosh, yes, goodness. Well, yes, everyone talks about all the successes, and that's why I wrote the book about all my mistakes, because I don't want to hear someone else's highlight reel. I actually want to know the messy middle in between the success and the failures and everything that they don't tell you. But my journey started in Portland, Oregon. I had two entrepreneurial parents, and probably going back to leadership would be my twin sister. So I'm a twin, and my twin sister, Tracy, is amazing. And she was always smarter and faster, and everything we did, she was always in first place, which was terrible as a twin because genetically we're the same. So it was kind of awkward that she always was winning. And I can remember taking the standardized test when you're 10, and I'm sure your children took
They're
this
going through that
test.
right now?
Yeah, they're going through it right. Mine too. They're going through it right now. And, the test, she aced, and I didn't. And she went to the talented and gifted school, and I stayed back. And I can remember someone saying...
Oh, that'd be crazy.
Yes. Yeah. Clearly,
That's
Kim,
some 80s, 90s stuff that I'm not sure is even allowed anymore.
Yes, clearly. And clearly you're not the smart one. And that haunted me from a very young age. And at that point, I started doing things differently. I just started becoming very focused on doing things that I could win at without having to compete with her. And so that was it's interesting how it affects you as a young age, and it definitely changes your mind to think what you're good at. And I'm sure the labels you get put on when you're growing up, whether that be an athlete or whatever that is, I was definitely not the academic one. So I had to find things that I was good at, which would have been swimming and tennis, solo sports, anything that I could actually do myself. And I think that stuck with me, for like a decade. And I think that was a limiting belief. And my first mistake that I made was not that I failed that test, but that I let that label define me. And I think a lot of people do that from a very young age. And it's how to flip that script to your mind so you don't carry that through, as you grow up and as you're in a career, because that is a limiting belief that limits you from achieving your greatest potential. So I went on, my parents were both entrepreneurs. So my dad was always close to bankruptcy, which was unfortunate. And I think I did not want to be an entrepreneur. That was one thing I did not want to do, was be an entrepreneur, because it was too uncertain. I hated the unpredictability. And so I really wanted to just get a stable job. I'm going to graduate from college, I'm going to get a stable job, and I'm going to climb the corporate ladder. And, I graduated, and I got a job at a very large internet company that raised $100 million in funding.
What year was this?
This was in 99. Okay. And so I thought I was going to be a dot-com millionaire, right?
I went to school to do web design in 2000, so...
Yes, you're part of that.
I know exactly where you're at.
This is the time. It's like everyone was making a ton of money on paper. No one's actually making money because everyone was losing a lot of money. But on paper, everyone was going to be millionaires, and I wanted to be one too. And it seemed safe. How could you spend $100 million in funding? Well,
buying logos and pet.com.
Yes, buying eyeballs with no actual business model. So that dream quickly became a nightmare for me. And the company went bankrupt. I was laid off. I had told all my friends they'd be millionaires, and they
Were not.
They were not, and I had to fire them too after I asked them to come work with me. And at that point, I realized that number one, there is no job security. So thinking,
there's no such thing.
My parents had job security. They didn't have it. I didn't have it. And it kind of leveled the playing field for me, because when you're at rock bottom, basically you can do whatever you want. And I believed in the internet, even though at that point it was an internet graveyard, and really trying to figure out how, what was I going to do next? And everyone's like, Kim, go to a real job. You got a degree, get a real job. It's like, well, I had a real job. I don't like, what next, right? And so I really thought this internet was going to be huge, regardless of the circumstances of the company going bankrupt. And I wanted to start in my own internet advertising company. So I went to my friends, I went to my parents. Everyone, again, said it was crazy. You're too young, you have no experience. All the reasons why people tell you it will not work. And I went to the one person that I knew would make a bet on me, or at least I thought, which was my 80-year-old grandma. And I told her about my dream for the internet and how it was going to be so big and this internet advertising was going to just blow up. And she gave me a $10,000 loan, even though she had no idea what the internet was. And I took the loan, and that's when I started my first company.
So tell me about that first venture.
Yeah. So the first company was an internet marketing company, basically buying advertising.
This is like 2001, 2002?
This is 2002. So you'd go to yahoo.com, I'd find an advertiser. I was basically pairing them together and making money on the transaction. Very early on, everything was
I was building
manual.
HTML websites for like $1,500 while I was in college.
See, you were there. You were taking advantage. This internet was new,
was
and
brand
I
new.
think trying to convince people to not advertise on the yellow pages and to advertise on the internet was very hard. If you can, right? For those listening, can you imagine? I mean, this is before Twitter, YouTube, LinkedIn, Snapchat, TikTok. I mean, this is very early on. So I sat at my kitchen table and I started that company with the $10,000 loan, and I bought a computer and the website domain. And
For everyone listening, you had to buy servers back then, right? Like,
yes, there was no AWS,
Yeah.
no web services. So everything, was really bootstrapped. And I was scared, and I was scared I was going to fail again, and had all these uncertainties, but I took the leap anyway. And I think anyone thinking, I can't do it, that's listening to this, you can do it. Start where you are with what you have, loan or not from your grandma, you can do it. And there is a way, as long as you have the courage to try.
Mm-hmm.
And so I sat at the kitchen table for 3 years, hoping that eventually this would start paying off. And it did. I mean, the internet started to grow, internet advertising started to grow, the market became quite successful. And I grew that and then ended up selling that in 2008, right before the mortgage.
Crisis.
Yes, the financial crisis. Timing's everything.
The next time that my cheese was moved.
Yes, yes.
I went from tech to real estate.
Right? And that's it. And again, great companies are built in hard times. So right now, it's a difficult time from a market perspective, but there's great companies being built right now, which is exciting to know. And it's about those, again, that are actually taking that leap of faith and capitalizing on the disruption, the opportunity. AI obviously is there's so much that you can do without having to build with a lot of infrastructure.
And so for scale, how big was that, like that first company?
First company we sold was about 16 million, and we sold, I sold it for about 20 million in 2008.
That is fantastic timing.
Yeah.
So before,
timing's everything.
Before and then from there, where did you move to next? What venture?
So then I
what
stayed
vertical?
on. I stayed on, and I continued to stay on the company because I had an earnout.
Mm-hmm.
It was very nice, and I blew it out of the water, which is exciting. So I continued to stay on at that, and then started. It was a European company, so I started working all over Europe, which was so much fun. Again, the market turned again, which is great. We got to see a lot of opportunity. The stock market came back, and we started consolidating from that company. And then again, 2013 came, another crisis happened. I pulled most IPOs at that point in time. And we ended up selling off the pieces, and I resold the company to Singapore Telecom in 2014 for $235 million.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you stayed on for that
I stayed on again, so another earn out. I'm very good at the earn out. And so I think when people look at deals and they think, oh, it's never going to work, well, I think it depends. I think it depends on the founder. And I mean, I'm a founder-led company, so my team had stayed with me, and I mean, it's all about the team, and that was a great ride. So then I stayed working out of Singapore Telecom for...
In Singapore?
Yeah. Well, we had offices, we had 1,000 employees. We did about $1 billion annually. And then we had offices from Tokyo to Tel Aviv to London, Australia. Our headquarters was in Silicon Valley. So the company was B2B SaaS. And then we had offices in Singapore as well.
And so it was 2008 to 2014. So that was like 6 years where you were somewhat back in the corporate world.
Yeah, it was a publicly traded company. I was definitely working in a very large,
So
as an entrepreneur.
Earnings calls and all the stuff
Yeah, the whole thing,
that
the
I'm
whole thing.
subject to right now.
Yes, yes. You know, it's a great learning experience, and I think it's how you look at things. I was working, when I worked for Singapore Telecom, from some amazing women, and seeing these women in Asia, and they were so smart and so successful, it was quite inspiring. And I think there's a lot you can learn from all parts of the journey, wherever you are. It's all about who is leading. And so as long as you have a great leader, there's so much you can learn. I think if you don't have a great leader, you should probably leave.
And how did you end that chapter? Because you had to earn out again.
Yeah, earn out again. And then I had my second set of twins in 2019, and I thought...
So you have two sets of twins.
I have two sets of twins, yes. And it became just too much to travel all the time and try to run the company. So I decided to step down. I had 4 children, 5 and under.
Yeah, that is a lot.
It's a lot. It's a lot, even for me. So, and they're so cute.
Yes.
At that age, so it
absolutely.
was just,
But my point of view is once they can talk and wipe their butt, life changes completely.
Yes, at that point they couldn't. So it was so much fun to be with them. So then just step down and look for what next. And along the way, once I sold in 2008, I really wanted to pay it forward. So I started investing in companies. I've invested about 150 companies, and really wanting to make sure that
An angel, a VC size?
Anywhere, to be honest, from probably 25 to $1 million. So I've gone pretty across the spectrum.
Have you gone like in a fund, or you were the one underwriting the deals, writing the checks?
Mostly direct. So I have a few funds, probably 10, but 95% of my deals are direct. I want to be able to actually have influence. I want to know the founder. I want to be that first call if something goes wrong. I want to help get the business, to where it actually can sustain as a business. I like it really early. So I like it in early, and just watching the founders grow and build their teams and raise capital.
Okay, so in our last company, we raised $48 million and across the levels like VC to growth equity, and in that process I got to pitch like some of the smartest capital in the world. What do you look for, right? Because one of my favorite quotes is, innovation is rewarded but execution is worshipped. And I think that's what it comes down to. So how, like, that's a lot of direct investment in underwriting. If you had to boil it down to like 1, 2, 3 things, what are you looking for? How's that thesis worked out? I could spend the rest of the talk about this.
Oh my goodness. Yes. I love investing. I love looking at founders. For me, it all comes down, as you said, to execution. Like, ideas are a dime a dozen. I wrote a book on execution because I looked at all the companies I had founded and all the companies I had invested in. And execution is the one skill that separates those dreamers from the doers. And that's what I'm betting on. And I found that there's 5 key traits to execution that I look for if you were to check boxes on, does this founder have these 5 traits? And if they do, the likelihood of me investing is very high. And the first is vision, having a crystal clear vision. Second is passion, not just doing what you love, but passion being the Latin root word for pain or suffering. So like what you're willing to suffer for, right? 3 is action, taking that first step, even if you can't see the entire staircase. 4 is resilience, because everything's going to go wrong. I mean, something always goes wrong. I guarantee it's going to go wrong. 100%. And so what happens? Are you going to get back up? And then 5 is really surrounding yourself with great people. It's relationships. Like, do you have a really strong support network, team, mentor, peer network? That's really important in order to be successful as a founder.
Super interesting. So I asked that question when I sat across from the smartest money in the world, quote unquote. And the most common response that I could distill across like 50 pitches was that they're actually looking for repeat exited founders, right? Like when you look at agnostic of sector, industry, size, they didn't even say successful exit. They said, founders that actually stuck it out, whether it was like turn the lights off and sell it for pieces or exited at, an amazing performance. But, I think that the media and the internet have glamorized like the 22-year-old Zuckerberg founder. Yeah. And the reality is that I think some of the best entrepreneurs, operators are like that third time 40-plus-year-old.
Yeah, for
Who's
sure.
Who's married, who has kids, who has a lot to lose. And like, this is not an option. Like, they have to make it work. So has that played into your thesis at all? Have you seen that commonality now that I kind of mention it?
If you're a second or third time founder, then I'd look at you, and I am, like, you know how hard it is. Yeah. You know what it takes. So if you're doing it again, you definitely...
High level of conviction.
Yes, you're going for it. And I think that's interesting. And I would definitely bet on second or third time founders. I try to bet early on, so I don't see as many. But if someone came to me, regardless of failure or success, and was saying, I've seen it, I've been there, and I'm willing to do it again, I would definitely take a bet on them.
Because it was funny, all these people are Stanford, Harvard educated, and they have all these models. And I'm like, what's really what you're looking for? And they're like, third-time founders.
Third time. Okay, I like that. Well, I'm a 9-time, so I'm definitely a good bet.
Exactly, because they're like, hey, it's almost the willing to have the conviction to see it through, right?
Yeah.
And normally, first-time founders don't have it because they just don't know what they don't know. But a second or a third-time founder, they have a whole lot of what not to do, which is almost more important than what to do.
Well, that's why I wrote the book, because I have
so
20
perfect
years,
segue.
right? No, it's important. I think I've got 20 years of all the mistakes I've made that, to your point, if you're a first-time founder, you don't know how important some of these mistakes are until you get on the inside. And so if we can help the first-time founders reduce the likelihood that they may fail and increase their odds of success, we should. That is our gift to the next generation.
And I see 3 to 5 pitches a week, right? Because of our size and scale to either acquire a partner or invest in. And it's interesting because now I can actually see that kind of twinkle in the eye of the healthy amount of delusion that's necessary.
Yes.
Right? They have to believe that they will win, even if it makes no sense. But again, having been in that seat, and I want to unpack how you view this, like, it doesn't matter how many times we tell them not to, they're going to do it. Like, I literally saw a pitch of a business that was similar to one we built and sold. They're like, what do you think? I'm like, don't do it. Like, don't do it. You have a lot of smart people, good capital stack, go do something else, pivot the business. Like, it's a terrible idea. And he goes, okay, I hear you, but what if I was going to not listen to you and still do it anyway? What advice do you have for me? So, but I see that. I see that the successful founder entrepreneur has to believe that there's a different way or a better mousetrap or a better process or system.
Yeah, for sure. And I also think, because I get pitched a lot, if I knew someone is going to fail and they still were hell-bent on doing it anyway, definitely I would not invest. I mean, if you're not willing to take critical feedback, right? Feedback's a gift. And you're looking for someone that's been there, that's somewhere, done that. I'm not saying that it can't be redone. I love to disrupt industries for sure. But if I've done exactly what you've done and you're still not listening to me, I have no reason why your outcome will be different. In fairness,
they were, I bet the best analogy is they were very pregnant. Like, they couldn't.
Okay, they couldn't leave.
They couldn't pivot.
Change. Yes.
I was speaking from a place of privilege, like, that's terrible. I'd turn it all off. But they're like, yeah, we're 30
stuck.
Employees. We burned $30 million of cash.
Oh, no.
I'm not in that position to do that anymore.
Well, I talk about in the book a mistake, which is failing to pivot. And to your point, most of the companies I've invested in have pivoted at least once. And so the companies that aren't pivoting, they're on a rocket ship, maybe, but likely, 99 to 1, they should be looking at, how do I continue to evolve? Is there a different pricing structure? Is there a different product? Is it what is the pivot they should be making? Market conditions change. What's my pivot? I actually really embrace the pivot. And I think with AI coming in and so much tech, you have to be agile and flexible and nimble and be willing to change, because you don't know what's going to happen in the market, but you can know that you will change and adapt accordingly.
My favorite pivot of all time is the Slack pivot. Are you familiar with that one?
Yes. Yeah.
That started as a video game company. We're shutting down, and Slack was their internal communications tool.
Yeah, I love that.
And,
right?
and so they were literally winding the business down. They're like, hey, this way we communicate is better than what's on the market. And it was a full pivot to become a communication tool that ultimately ended up at Salesforce for billions of dollars. But it was internal tool to communicate at a video game company.
Well, it's a great example. And if you look at YouTube, they started as a dating site, and Twitter started as a podcast platform. I mean, Netflix, DVDs by mail to streaming. I mean, the most
now
successful,
airing
right?
Live sports.
Yes,
right?
the most successful companies in the world are pivoting. And to be successful, you always got to think, what's my next move? What's my next move? Where's opportunity that I can't see?
So how did you go from entrepreneur to investor, consumer direct products to author, and however you want to tie that, because I want to spend the most of the time talking about the book.
No. For me, as I continue to watch entrepreneurs invest in companies, I really try to share what I'm learning with other people, because I can't meet one-on-one with so many people, but if I can write about it, then hopefully someone else will read it and be able to skip a few lines. So my first book, The Execution Factor, was all about the one skill that drives success in business. My second book I wrote during COVID, which was called Jump, Dare to Do What Scares You in Business and Life. And I think at that point, a lot of people were taking that jump into the unknown, because either they are forced out or wanted to had the time to think about making that decision for themselves. And then this book I wrote because I feel right now that there's so many people giving you a highlight reel of business, or you see it online, and it's
personal,
not.
Everything.
Everyone tells you how successful they are, but the reality is, I built my success on all of the mistakes, the humbling mistakes that I made, and learning from them and growing from them. And I want to be transparent that even the businesses that I'm operating in now, they hit setbacks and challenges, and they make mistakes, and they will still be successful. But it's acknowledging that and sharing that I think is relatable to other founders, not just sharing the highlight reel.
And from the operations standpoint, are you in operations, or you're purely capital as an advisor? What role do you have in the businesses you're involved in today?
I service 3 different roles. 1, investor. 2, co-founder, where I'll put the original capital in and hire the CEO, and then help raise capital to scale it, and then sit on the board. And then actual co-founder, where I'm actually actively involved. So in Juni, I'm actively involved in building this. And
so how did this story come about?
This story came about is I met...
By the way, this is delicious.
Thank you. It's so good, right? I met, during my first book, I met Jay Shetty on his podcast. And we just had very similar value system. I'm a tech entrepreneur, and he is a monk. We had so much in common. And we actually did. We had a love for people, for health and wellness, for making a difference in the world. And he wanted to find a way to bridge his digital presence with something physical, because I think it's great to have something digital, but the physical part is actually something you can consume. And tea was a love language that he shared with his family growing up, with his wife.
That makes sense.
And it was a ritual and something that he was very meaningful. So it was something that they could share together. And so in creating Juni, and Juni stands for Just You and I, so Just You and I can have a sip of tea together. We can have a moment of pause to reflect and connect. And it's really about using my tech background, which is how do you disrupt an old category? So how do you disrupt the tea category? And Juni is doing that. It's fun, it's flavorful, and it's functional. So it's filled with ashwagandha and lion's mane and reishi mushroom and these great ingredients that are functional. You can take it on the go. It's 5 calories, 0 sugar. It's definitely not your grandma's tea. And it's meant to really be a great modern tea company.
But the disruption is probably coming from your go-to-market, right? Because CPG is probably the hardest barrier of entry from eyeballs, traditionally speaking. Right?
Yeah.
If you're like, hey, I'm going to launch something consumer direct and I'm going to go buy commercials and like the legacy way, that I'm assuming that's not how you guys went to market.
No. I mean, he's got him and his wife, they're both amazing founders and digital entrepreneurs and marketers. And so they've been able to use their platforms to really share the word, and it's truly authentic to them. And I think that's what really makes a difference today, authenticity. If it's not authentic, no one's going to buy it. But if they're drinking it because they love it and they created it, I mean, they made every single drink, every single formula. It's actually amazing. They're so highly involved. And that's what makes great entrepreneurs. They're so passionate. They really love what they've created. And it's fun to build things with people that have a great vision. And I think at the end of the day, it's really important to love the problem you're solving and really love the people that you're solving it with.
So different question. How did you pivot from really in the weeds operator to personality, right? So whether it's social, or I'm assuming you do a lot of speaking, to an author, like that's a whole different skill set, right? Which I think a lot of entrepreneurs today have to embrace, want to or not. One of the things I've always obsessed my whole life is directional accuracy, right? Doesn't matter how I feel about something. Like eventually I have to talk to cameras and and do things that could be out of my comfort zone. But if that's where the attention is going, that's where your energy needs to go.
Yeah, for me, it started just wanting to share what I was learning with my teams. And so I would give presentations on leadership, on personal development. And I did that ever since the first company I started. I was really into helping people grow. And so then that just evolved into, as I got acquired and then more companies and more scale, other people would ask me to come and speak at their events, and the VCs would ask me to come speak at their events. And it just became almost natural for me I was already speaking to my teams about it. It was very easy to make the connection to other opportunities that were very similar in nature. And then from there, since I was doing so much of it, again, I had a day job, which was the company. That's when I started writing a book. Okay, I got to take this and put all of this into a book, so then it would be able to be accessed by so many more people. So it was an evolution. I don't think it was just one day I woke up and thought, oh, I'm going to go out and change my career. It was really, it complemented what I was doing in business.
Got it. Well, then what led to this book, and what are the things that, people should get really excited about and takeaways that they could lean into?
Yeah, I think this book is different because it talks about 10 specific mistakes I made and the lessons I learned from them. And it's really practical advice. And I think for any entrepreneur, it's great to hear about the story that you went through, but okay, great. How do I apply that into my life? And how do I apply that into my business? And this book offers those frameworks, and I think that's really important because each starts with a story, which is one of my stories that brings in stories of people I've invested in, people that I'm friends with, all of their stories as well, because it's not just me. Everyone's making the same mistakes. These 10 mistakes are universal, right? Mistake number 1 is feeling you're not 100% ready. Everyone's making that mistake. Or
I talk about that one a lot.
Right? Because it's universal.
We're not ready until we do it.
Yeah, and then we're ready. Let's go.
And the most visceral example of that, I think, is taking your first kid home from the hospital.
Oh my gosh, you have no idea what you're doing.
Where's the responsible person going to keep this thing alive?
They're giving me these 2 people? I have no idea. Shoot. Yes, but you're not ready, and then you are. And so really finding ways to help people move from idea to action, and, learning that me too, I've been paralyzed by fear of failure. I've had terrible partners that have cost me millions of dollars. These mistakes that everyone's making, literally, we're all making the same mistakes. So if we can just talk about them, let's save ourselves the nightmare of learning from them and then help, each other, also heal from them, I think, as well.
Got it. And so what are some other ones that you'd encourage first-time entrepreneurs to digest and internalize?
Gosh, let's see. Well, I would say trying to do everything alone is a big mistake that entrepreneurs make. Thinking that, I don't know why we think we have to. I mean, I did myself. Think I got to do it alone. I mean, you obviously run a very large company, but when you're first starting out, I don't know whether it's ego, just ask. You don't want to ask for help. And maybe for me, it was because I didn't want to look stupid. It felt it was like weakness.
I want to go a little further in that. What is the advice? Is it seeking information? Because one of the things I give founders advice is not give away, like, you meet an entrepreneur like, oh, we have 5 co-founders. And, it's like, no, you don't need that. Where's the balance for you?
I think it's asking for help. And in the book, I talk about 4 people pillars that I have, and I think everyone should have. Just as a house has 4 walls, I think every entrepreneur also needs the same support system. And so having those family and friends, having mentors have been a huge impact on my life. Having a team, whether that be hired team or consulting team, and then having a peer network. So if you have these pillars, the likelihood you will be successful is 10 times if you do not. And for me, I didn't ask for help really early on, and I regret that. That was a mistake. I should have reached out sooner. I should have asked for help. I should have gotten a mentor sooner, but I just was naive and thought I could do it alone. And I think a lot of people, for whatever reason, don't ask for help. And my advice is to start asking for help in every area of your business. I cannot create a beverage company without asking someone who's a beverage expert for help.
Yeah, no,
it's right. That'd be just crazy of me.
You can always find an expert. My younger brother and I, 15 years ago, he wanted to bottle a sauce, and it was a crazy, like, kind of side detour test, but it was we called some place that knew how to reverse engineer a formula from something that spoils to solid state, and like there's just experts at everything, and we spent like 10 grand, but like, yeah, we have no idea what we're doing, but it was super interesting. I was like, oh wow, there is experts for just about everything.
In everything. I'm actually an investor in a company called Intro, which is on-demand experts, which is an amazing company.
That is a great concept.
Amazing. So basically, if you want to talk to me, I'm on anything, you can literally book on demand, and I'll show up and talk to you. The ability to have on-demand experts in category specific, game changer. So why would you try to do it alone when you can actually have access to that expertise?
One of the things I did as an agent when I was coming up is I would find someone who did something that I wanted to do next, and I'd give them as little as $2,500, and the most someone ever charged me was $7,500 for the day, and I would fly and spend a day with them and ask them everything. And 9 out of 10 times, what I learned is I didn't want to do that.
Yeah.
I was like, you know what?
It's fun.
But I was buying time.
Right.
So if I save myself 12 months of trying something that eventually I would say that's a terrible idea, I'm glad to accelerate the process and make a decision because I just witnessed it at scale. Be like, even though it is profitable, like it doesn't fit with my personality, my ethos, my workflow, like ROI isn't what I think it should be.
I love that, but I don't even think that, let's just say we don't have $2,500, $75 to invest.
This is before Intro was
around.
Before
Intro.
This was 20 years ago.
That's even expensive. But think of when you're looking at doing something, even just, I usually say these 3 simple words could be a game changer, which is let's have coffee. Again, all you have to do is ask for 15 minutes of someone's time that's an expert in their field. People want to help other people. And if you're very specific, I'm starting a drink company, I just need 15 minutes of your time, especially if we're close, right? Obviously, happy to help. And anyone in my network that I know, if it's a blind lead off LinkedIn, perhaps it may be a farther stretch, but you do have someone in your network where you can go to someone local and just ask.
I actually give that advice when I'm talking to young folks or entrepreneurs that, in my experience, the most successful people are the most abundant and giving of their time.
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah, because they operate from abundance mindset, which is there's so much for everyone, and it feels good to give. And people always say, well, you're too busy, Kim. And I'm not. Like, I want to help. The whole reason I write books, the whole reason I speak is I actually want to help other entrepreneurs become successful.
So I think a really interesting closing idea that I want to unpack with you is, because everything we talked about, I love because it's evergreen. So no matter when they watch it, but like, so this is June of 2025. So this part, it will be very specific in time. I think there's a lot of anxiety in both society and business of the disruption that's coming from AI. And I think like most things, I think it's probably overhyped in the short term and underhyped in the long term. But I'm curious how I think entrepreneurs should be thinking about it and what suggestions you have and like, how do you embrace it? How do you pivot? How do you take advantage of the moment?
I think right now you need to embrace it. It's coming. I think people, depending on where you are in your ability to pivot and adapt, you may or may not think the world's gonna change. The world's gonna change. It's gonna change very fast. So right now, if I am an entrepreneur, I would be learning any tool possible, educating yourself on the market, and then executing, implementing these within your business. It's amazing that you could even think it's not coming. Like, this tidal wave's coming. And so the best thing that you can do is train yourself to be adaptable to what comes, because you don't know yet. But your business is going to change, which is amazing. I've had so many people come and say, I've actually reduced my OpEx. But with the reduction in people or time that people are taking to do mundane tasks, that gives more time to think about creating an opportunity. So shift your mind from this is coming, it's going to be terrible, to how does this actually help me? That's what we should be thinking about. How can this make my life easier, my job smarter, faster? This is, it's a mindset. And shifting that mindset now will save you a lot of headache.
The other
later.
thing I've been telling folks is it's not only coming, but there's no gatekeeping.
Right.
Right. So I feel like other kind of advancements in technology, as someone who founded and scaled a tech company, I was still beholden to a product manager, to a designer, to a front end, to a back end engineer, which now this is not the same. Right. And so what I'm encouraging folks is it's not only coming, but everyone's going to do it. Right. It's an analogy I said to someone the other day. I was like, this is social and we're at MySpace. Right. So if you knew at the time of MySpace of what YouTube was going to be, and Facebook and Instagram, imagine the audience you could garner by going all in now.
Yeah, go all in now. I agree. Just embrace it, right? And I think that is going to separate the really successful individuals from those that are not.
Well, as any closing thoughts on the book or anything else that you'd want to impart on folks?
I think to your point, like, now's the time. There's never been a better time. I started my company 20 years ago. Actually, I just started a couple more. So I'd say it doesn't matter what you're in. I mean, I have a predictive intelligence company, I have a Web3 company, I have a beverage company, I have a beauty company. Whatever that idea is, time to take that first step. And don't be afraid. Everyone's afraid, but do it anyway.
Well, thank you so much, Kim. And I look forward to the book, and congratulations. And we can't wait to see how it does.
Oh, thank you so much. It's been great.